Today we're going to go over a couple of deals actually, but one deal in particular where we look at traditional financing and alternative financing. I'm Jay Matthiesen and this is the architecture of the deal. During this session we're going to look at a traditional deal, like I said earlier, and how you would structure the capital stack that way. And then we're going to look at it and how we would structure the capital stack in an alternative way and what the differences in the two are. And how you can possibly get this done. And then we might talk about a couple other topics if we have time in this session. So let's jump right in. So we had a deal here recently that was $200 million. And it was located in the Caribbean. I'm not going to mention where it was at. But the borrower, he needed to bring in a traditional way, he would have needed to bring in 30% of this number, so he would have needed to bring in $60 million at least in equity. So this is his equity in the deal, 60 million bucks. That's a lot of money for someone to bring in. There's not that many people in the world that can write that kind of check, although there are becoming more. So he was going to take 160 of the deal, and he would need a lender, traditionally a bank, would have to do the other 140 million of the deal as debt. And that is what the project would look like. And this is a traditional deal. This is traditionally how people think of real estate deals and how they get done. Now, alternatively, another way we could have done it is we got the same 200 million. In this deal, we could have done, the borrower could have put in, let's say on this deal, he could have put 15 million in as pure equity. We would have come in with 45 million of what we call preferred equity. Now, what is preferred? Preferred is a special type of equity that usually earns, it's usually going to earn an 8 to 12% rate while the money is out. So it's just like another loan, except that it's making a much higher interest rate than a bank loan. On a traditional bank loan up here, this debt would have probably cost the borrower 4.5% to 6%. And so that's what the borrower would pay. Now, in equity on a traditional deal or on even on an alternative deal, the equity typically gets an 8 to 10% pref. And the same thing would happen down here. The developer might earn a pref on his money because he's got it invested in the deal as well. But what that means is that from the time the money is deployed until the time they get all that money back, it's earning that guaranteed interest rate. It's part of the deal. So as the profits come in on the deal, the profits go first to pay this off before it gives them their money back. And there's usually, that's called the waterfall, and usually in the waterfall there's a priority of who gets what and when they're going to get it. And with the bank, of course, getting the last chunk of the deal. Actually, the bank gets their money first if they sell the deal, but if the project's cash flowing, what's usually happening is they're paying their debt service, so they're just covering the interest carry, and then they are dealing with paying the pref rate on the equity. That's what happens in a traditional structure. That also happens in an alternative structure. However, this guy, the preferred guy, is getting paid that rate before he gets anything. They're also usually going to get all their money back before he gets anything. And then, of course, the bank would be down here for the same 140 million of bank debt. Now, so the other important thing to know about this structure, these structures, is this. in this scenario where it's traditional, if this guy had 60 million to put up, this deal would have been 100% equity to him. In other words, he would own 100% of the shares of the deal. So he would also, which also means he would own 100% of the profits after he paid the interest carry on the loan and he paid off the loan and paid all his expenses. So this is what happens here. Now down here, he's going to put in 15 million and he's going to get, say, 60% of the equity, which would equal 60% of the profits. And this guy, the preferred guy, is going to get the other 40% for being essentially his partner. So this is a way that you can structure these deals. And so you're going to make 60% of the profits and you only had to spend 15 million bucks to do it. Or you can make 100%, but it's going to cost you 4 times that much to get there. So this is how we all, so this is traditional and this is the alternative. This is a way that we can do this. Now there are other things we can do inside the alternative structure that I can't really go into here. There's too many things that we could talk about. We could spend hours talking about. But nonetheless, you can see how a very expensive deal, you can break it down and get it into bite-sized blocks of capital that people can actually handle or they can afford to spend money on. So this is how we get alternative deals done, typically. This is how the alternative versus the traditional structure typically works. It's fairly common knowledge out there, but if you're new to the game and you're just learning real estate, you may not know these things. You know, the other side of this is that you're giving up a share of the deal in order to not have to put up as much equity. You know, this guy, he may not have 15 million to put up either, but he can go split his 15 million up and give away part of this 60. So he has options here to do things. To try to get all the money raised somehow and get the deal done. It's highly unlikely that the borrower would have been able to do the deal in a traditional state. So the only way we could solve it is by doing this, by doing the alternative. And that's what you want to look at and be looking for when you're doing your real estate deals. These are the kind of things that help make capital structures work and then make real estate deals that are very expensive possible. So just remember that next time you're looking at a deal and you're thinking about how do we capitalize this thing, that's a way, this is a method you could use to capitalize the deal. I'm Jay Matthiesen and this is Architecture of the Deal.